everybody, and welcome to another episode of Small Talk. I'm Amy, this is my wife Maggie,
Hello.
and together we are ThinkerThemer, and this is the series where we slow things down a little bit and just have a casual chat about what's been going on with us in our lives in creating content, and then we talk about some small box games. So this week, what we thought we'd talk about is the lack of back chat episodes that we have been filming.
Yes, it's one of those we were trying to be like, okay, let's do another back chat. And then it's like consistently week after week, it's been like, there's not really enough campaigns to do a 10. Oh, there's not really enough campaigns to do a 5 even. So it's a bit dried up out there.
And I think there's a lot of games now that are going straight to retail, and I'm not sure if the sentiment on Kickstarter campaigns is starting to wear off a little bit. We kind of peaked a few years ago, and now it feels like campaigns are slowing down. Publishers are going back to retail. But of course, the pandemic caused so many issues with, I guess, trying to predict the right price to charge so far in advance. And then with all these things that happened with the shipping crisis, with the cost of goods going up, all of that was so unpredictable that I can kind of understand. I'm not sure I would want to gamble with locking in costs, 2 years in advance. That's a lot.
I think the other thing is maybe we all hit that peak together where we all kind of purchased everything that we all went a bit, a bit overexcited with purchasing. And now, because it's not just us, you hear it a lot, this whole, I'm waiting on quite a number of campaigns now to be delivered. So, and obviously, with inflation and things, times money's a bit more tight.
Cost of living is going up. Postage costs are going up. That's one of the big factors why we stopped backing so many games, because I started getting surprise bills for $80 when the game only costs $40.
Which is not the publisher's fault, but then at the same time, it's
it's just not worth it.
It's just the reality of it right now.
It can't be worth it when you could buy 3 games at your local game store instead. So unfortunately, we have stopped backing as many. We still are very much monitoring Kickstarter and GameFound and keeping across the campaigns that are happening. And we promise that if we start to see more campaigns again, and maybe it's just no one wanted to launch campaigns over Gen Con and the middle of the year, and maybe it'll come back again. So if it does, we will start filming back chat again. In the meantime, we haven't backed anything recently, so if you have any questions about any specific campaigns, please drop them in the comments below, and we'll try and address those questions.
So we're going to put a pause on back chat, I think.
We'll see. Okay. We kind of are treating it on a week-by-week basis. We're looking at campaigns as soon as we have enough and we feel like, okay, there's 40 live campaigns that we could consider, and then there's our top 10. We will get back into it. But we actually have an exciting idea for a new series, which we just need to find the time to start filming. So keep your eyes peeled for that one, and that might help kind of bridge the gap until we can get back into back chat. So, and of course, in the meantime, we have plenty of games to review.
As you may have seen from recent videos, recent haul videos.
Our haul back from Gen Con, and the kind of banking up, because of course we were away as well, which means that we weren't playing the games we already had. So there's quite a pile.
It's quite a queue. Join the queue, games.
And speaking of, when we got home, we of course brought with us, a lot of games that we picked up at Gen Con. But we also arrived home to parcels, as you do every time we go away.
Other, a lot of the Kickstarters that are now delivering, and just those other games orders that had been placed beforehand.
Games of campaigns past is what happens every time we get back from holiday.
Come back to haunt us in a fun way.
Lucky they're already paid for. That's the best bit.
Exactly. It's didn't cost me any extra now that it's arrived.
So we did come home to quite a few boxes. So we'll show some of those.
So this is a This Just In
segment. Firstly, gift of tulips. And I have seen other people receiving this, and so I was quietly hoping this would be waiting for us. This is by Weird Giraffe Games, and it's just a little bit of a filler that is kind of a card game based on tulip
tulip trading? Was it the tulip trading was it Amsterdam?
And you are, yes, that's right. And you are trading, you are changing the tulip ranking, so the different tulip cards, either openly or by playing into the secret festival.
Affecting the market, the tulip market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
I know from investing. Like it's one of those random investing things that I learned along the way.
What, about tulip markets?
Yeah, it was a big thing. Like tulips were going to be this, they had a boom and then it sort of just, petered out. It wasn't the hot thing.
Maybe that was the inspiration for the game.
Absolutely. It sounds like from what you're,
Anyway, so looking forward to checking that out. That is a gift of tulips. What else came in the mail? Oh, there was a parcel that came all the way from
boxes.
All the way
two
from
more little boxes.
Japan. And I love how a lot of these Japanese games, they include a folder that has the English rules in them. So just put those over there.
Yeah, they just send you an envelope with with the little sheets of paper.
But the two games,
we're gonna have Boston joining us maybe.
The two games that came in the mail were Cinderella's Dance, which from memory I believe is a 2-player trick-taking game. Oh,
we're gonna have a Boston. Come on, over here. You can be in the video.
Maggie's encouraging him.
If you sit down and you're a good boy. Right, sit down.
It's very cold, and so he just wants to be sitting on laps and staying warm. And now I think he's probably going to steal focus of the camera.
No, it's on you. It's on you. If anything, he'll probably be blurry. He's having a bit of a blurry day.
Okay, so the two games are Cinderella's Dance, which is a 2-player trick-taking game, and American Bookshop, which is one that I really wanted to get my hands on. This is a reprint, I believe, but this is a trick-taking game as well that only plays 3 to 5 players, so we'll have to find a friend.
How cute are the boxes?
The boxes are adorable. They are little books, and they have the very satisfying magnetized cover.
Magnetic.
Yeah, so that it doesn't doesn't open.
Magic. Lucky it didn't just open.
I know. They'll all fall on the ground.
Make you look bad.
It's pretty secure.
Yeah,
and it looks really cute because they just sit on the shelf like that.
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to trying this out. Should I stop pass things to Boston?
I don't know why you're passing them to me, but I guess that makes sense.
I'm moving them away from the pile.
Yeah, fair.
The next one that we backed is...
I love this title. It's probably one of my favorite titles.
So You've Been Eaten.
So You've Been Eaten. It's the start of it, yeah.
And it is about a game where you have the job, I believe, of clearing out.
I'm going to wait and see how much theme you remember.
I'm trying.
So You've Been Eaten is you're taking contracts to go into, I believe, the belly of, I don't know if it's a beast or an alien. It's some kind of animal.
It's a giant space beast, so it's both.
Yeah, there you go. So because there's some mineral or something in their gut that is actually quite valuable. And so this is like your manual, So You've Been Eaten is the start of your manual of how to do this job, essentially. This is your induction. Starting line. But then, so it's about making sure that then you make your way out before the alien, I don't know if it's their gastric juices or something else that the alien does. Oh, it digests you.
It does digest you. But it says do not despair if you get digested. Your non-organic parts will certainly be useful to future miners.
Yeah, exactly. So you won't make it, but your equipment will. That'll be handy. Yeah.
So the main reason why we backed this is, the gameplay seemed interesting. The theme is obviously really unique, but it's by Scott Elms, who is quite, well known for a lot of his games, but also in particular for his solo gaming. And Maggie tends to enjoy some of his solo designs. But what's really interesting about this game is it plays from 0 players through to 2 players. So 0.
So you don't need any players to play.
The game actually has basically, I believe, 2 AIs that play out the game themselves.
Yeah. So it's kind of like watching a movie, I guess.
But is it a 0-player game if you still have to do the moves for the AI? Well, I would argue that you're still engaged.
You're the NPC.
Yeah,
so you yourself become the non-playable character.
I guess you're not making any choices, so therefore, can it be a game if you're not making choices?
You're just facilitating. If you had someone saying, your turn, would you say that they're a player? No, they are just you're facilitating. I think it'll be a funny thing to. Yeah, I love getting philosophical. I think it'll be a funny thing to play out, see what happens.
Yeah, and if you play solo, you can actually play as the minor player, or you can play as the beast player against the robot miner, or a miner player against the hibernating beast.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2 different solo modes, so that's interesting.
Nice.
And then obviously there's a 2-player mode, which you're probably less interested in because you hate playing with me.
I love solo games. That's not true. I love playing with you. So you've been eaten.
And the next game is I'm really excited about this one because often talked about, but never really comes true in our household is we've looked at a few campaigns that have real-time
dice?
roll and write.
Oh, okay.
Real-time roll and write.
Yeah.
So you are racing the other players around the table. I really enjoy games, and I even enjoy cooperative games where you are racing against a timer or something like that.
Well, it adds the tension straight away.
A lot of tension. Yeah. But I also like games where you're racing against opponents, of course. And this is called Episode 1, Vengeance, the Roll and Fight. And so I believe in this one, you are moving through spaces and you are going to be confronted with enemies, and you're going to have to basically fight your way through whatever scene it is. And there's an element of, well, racing other people, I believe,
but also like making I believe from memory, it's like making the combo of the things that you need for the actual battle.
Yeah, so looking forward to checking that out. It's quite a big box.
Yeah, I was looking to say, it's a much bigger box than I anticipated.
Yeah, I did not expect it to be that large. But anyway, I'm excited to see what is contained in the box.
It's heavy too.
Here's another heavy big box, and that is Dog Park.
Yay!
And this
we have a photo or a video bomb. Video bomb. I don't know what I'm saying.
Boston. Look, it's quite late at night here.
Yes, you may have noticed the lighting is a little bit different.
The lighting is not quite right because usually we film in daylight, and today was just one of those days where we meant to film all day, and then by the time we knew it, it was over.
We ran out of daylight.
But this is Dog Park, and you would have seen probably a lot of people receiving this in the mail. Yeah. It's really cute. I'm excited to get into the game trays, which are like bone-shaped, really, really adorable. And in this game, it's all about collecting different dogs and walking them.
Yeah, dog walking. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so, and if you remember the campaign, when we talked about it, there are lots of different types of like actual breeds of dog, and so it's really exciting. I don't think we'll find a Boston because he's we won't find a bug.
He's a bug. He's
half Boston Terrier.
Yeah, and half pug.
Yeah, that's why we called him Boston, because we're super creative like that.
So this is why we can't do RPGs. So
I'm going to put this over here
because
good idea. Too many games over there. So that's everything that was waiting for us in the mail. So on top of the Gen Con haul, we have these games to play as well. So there's just an endless supply of games, and which is kind of fun because it's just this huge pile, and at night or on the weekend we just look at the pile and we're like, well, what should we play? Like, we can just grab something.
It's not kind of fun. It's like extremely fun.
It's really fun.
It's like it's like our life.
The hardest part is finding other people to play with us because not everyone likes to play games all the time.
Yeah, people are like, I'll play a little bit, and like, oh, you're playing again?
Yeah, or you ask on Monday, and they're like, maybe on Thursday, and you're like, Thursday? Yeah. What about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? What am I meant to do for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
I guess we'll just have to play just the two of us.
Yeah, but luckily we do have a lot of 2-player games, roll and writes and things like that to play, so it should be okay.
Yeah.
Now, we usually talk about in small talk as well anything else that's come in our mailbox, and specifically we love receiving postcards. So if you sent us a postcard, thank you so much. If you want to send us a postcard, we're still collecting them. We are planning on moving our postcards from our old studio into our new studio, which means we need more of them. So if you see a postcard that represents where you live really well, it's so fantastic for us to see a visual representation of the community. It just is so heartwarming.
It's really nice to be like surrounded by it. So I'll talk about these two beautiful postcards.
2 from one person.
Yes. So this one's Kings Canyon National Park in California. And it's from Joe, who says, "Hi, Amy and Maggie, just sending you a postcard from our little cabin in the woods. Yes! Exclamation mark. I have a family cabin in Wizonia, California. Our family vacations here during the summer and play board games all week." That sounds
like a dream.
Heavenly.
Yeah.
That sounds like the best. And this is the General Grant tree, which apparently is 1,650 years old. I should have gotten you to guess. Like, how old do you think? It's apparently like a massive tree. Now, it says measures 32.8 m, which I'm thinking it's going to be meters. But it's interesting because usually in the US, they don't use meters. So Joe, thanks for, if that is meters, thanks for using meters. And that is just the circumference. So that's just
goodness.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's the circumference of it.
No, that can't be right.
I don't know. Like, how big do you get when you're 1,600 years?
38 meters.
Yeah, 32.8 meters.
32 meters.
Yeah.
Oh, all the way around. Right.
Yeah, all the way around.
All the way around.
What did you think?
I don't know. For a second there, I thought just across. And I was like, that seems outrageous. But
what do you mean around?
Like it goes.
Oh, yeah, because it's circumference, not
not
what
the
do you call it? Not radius.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah, because then it's 81.5 miles.
Meters.
Miles. That would be quite a lot. Meters tall. Yeah.
This is a large tree. That's the summary. That's what I'm going to take out of this postcard.
Massive.
It's a large tree.
Massive and beautiful tree.
Thank you so much.
Joe.
We have never been to
awesome.
Kings Canyon.
Yeah.
We've never been, but it sounds like it.
I love the artwork as well.
The postcards are beautiful.
The actual. The art style. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you for thinking of us and for sending us a postcard. The cabin in the woods is such like an American concept.
Yeah.
Like, or probably European as well, but certainly not Australian. I think because we don't have like the traditional pine woods that you see in America. Like
I think that's us, because there's plenty of There's plenty. I've been to cabins in the woods.
I know that we do have cabins, but it's not very common for people to say, "Oh, my family has a cabin."
That's true. Yeah,
in
that's
the woods.
True.
Like maybe.
Okay.
Maybe families who are really into skiing might have a chalet that's like in the mountains or something, but we don't really talk about.
I've been to cabins that were, trust me, we're not a chalet. You know how they talk about, a lot of people outside of Australia are always very scared of snakes and spiders, and we're always like, no, it's not an issue. If you go to a cabin in the woods in Australia, those two things are going to be an issue.
They are, yes.
So, yes, I do remember lots and lots of... And also, this one particular cabin that we went to, it was like family friends that shared it, like they kind of owned it together. And they had like their shoes just like outside. When you look around and there's spiders everywhere. And it's like, why would you leave your shoes for weeks outdoors? Right.
Stop scaring everyone. Just about everyone we bumped into at Gen Con said, like, I'd love to go to Australia, but what about the spiders? And we don't see them.
How many spiders have you seen on a ThinkerThemer video walking in the background? I bet you probably less than one.
We asked them to wait outside for the video.
We do say, please hold.
We lock them in a bedroom while we're filming, just like we should have done with Boston.
No, we just give them food. We just feed the spiders.
We put a carcass over there for them to feed on while we're here.
A snake, a dead snake.
No, but when I think about woods, I think of pine trees, and I think of like more like deer and bears and those kind of woods, and we don't have that in Australia. We have bush, and we certainly have a lot of eucalyptus trees, but it's a very different kind of atmosphere.
Actually, the other cabins were more rainforest type cabins.
Yeah, we have rainforests.
Like Queensland and that sort of area. Very
You're really stuck on arguing with me that we have traditional
because I feel like I've stayed at... No, I agree with you with the whole
I've stayed in
woods.
cabins too, but I'm saying with that traditional wood cabin feel...
No, I'm going to agree with you.
I feel like that's like, Canada as well has lots of woods and cabins and things. But I
love that, like pine trees as far as the eye can see when you're driving.
And they're so beautiful.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Anyway,
we really digress.
We have really digressed. But we also, in small talk, sometimes talk through some infrequently asked questions. What we like to term our IAQs instead of FAQs, because you only have to ask us once and it's highly likely that we will answer it. And because we've been traveling and not really asking for IAQs, we don't really have that many. If I've missed one, please drop it in the comments below, ask us a question, and we'll make sure we talk about it next episode. But I did get one question from Craig, who asked something about Gen Con, which was, did we notice any themes coming through in terms of the types of games we were seeing? And while you're thinking about yours, I have two.
Okay. You go with yours. I'll start thinking.
Okay, you start thinking. One, trick-taking games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
that is such a big hot thing at the moment.
It is so hot, but it's like trick-taking is kind of like what roll and rights were, a couple of years ago. That there's just more and more and more of them, and they all have some unique twist to them. Obviously, Cat in the Box was a big hit at Gen Con, but also it feels like when people have a game that they're carrying around in their bag that they want, to bring out and try with you. Now it's kind of a trick-taking game because everyone's so familiar with the core mechanic of trick-taking now that it's like, oh, but this one does this, which is like, I don't know. I think it's cool because they're usually pretty small boxes and like you can take them wherever. For example, when we were traveling, I constantly had in my backpack Fox in the Forest.
Yeah, we did keep playing that. Yeah.
And I
a lot of airport
losing.
Yeah. That's not you. I feel like you now have pretty much overtaken me.
Oh no. I will check the stats on that, but it is definitely I'm not very good at that game.
That was actually a pretty good one to just play at teeny tiny tables. I think, did we even play it on an airplane? We did.
Yes. We did.
So like even just like across our two little trays, waiting at an airport. Yeah. Right, that's a great little portable
But
game,
anyway, case in point, trick-taking games.
Yes.
They are so hot right now and they're everywhere. And the other thing is, and I would never say this right, anthropomorphism, which is you're seeing more and more in games that there are cute little animals that have taken on like human-like qualities and are doing things like, I think of creature comforts where, you're playing as all these little creatures who are trying to set up their
what are
home.
they doing?
Well, they're setting up their home with all their creature comforts for hibernation.
Setting up your...
You're so mean to me. And I try extremely hard with theme.
You're doing really well.
How hard do you try with explaining mechanics?
I don't know. Maybe... I don't know, actually. I don't know
not at all. So, I mean... you should try being a little nicer to me.
I'm sorry, babe.
Anyway... I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so we're seeing,
winter, setting up the cabin for winter is what? Creature comfort.
Yeah, but more broadly,
characters
that topic of like having animals doing human-like things fit to print. That is another game that's upcoming that has this beautiful Inno tool art, which is about animals that are making a newspaper. Like they actually
as they do,
shop.
Someone's got to.
Yeah, someone's got to in the animal kingdom. And there just seems to be like a lot of games that are now set in that more cute theme of bringing animals to life in cute ways, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love those games.
Yeah.
And we have a friend that really only wants to play those cute animal games.
Yeah, we have a friend who just loves if there's cute components in a game. It's like just in for, like immediately in. Yeah. The cuter the better.
So those are my two.
I'm really stuck with this one. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to remember kind of walking around and see if I feel like there seems to be a shift towards more medium, like lighter and medium games. Like it wasn't as many of the like, there were obviously a lot of like big, like heavier games, but it feels like even publishers that usually do a lot of the heavier stuff, they're now leaning towards, hey, let's make sure that we also release some more accessible, lighter, maybe quicker playing, shorter experiences.
Yeah, we saw that with like the Lacerda games, taking components of that and turning them into a lighter-like experience. Yeah,
and Mind Clash with like Septima, like doing like a lighter.
Although some people don't think that Septima is that light.
Yeah, but I guess if you compare it to,
if you compare it to their other,
to like
other
a
games,
Tricerian or like
Perseverance.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
it's definitely lighter than
much lighter.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that publishers probably with all the costs increasing and everything, you've got to make sure that you're reaching mass market, or at least not mass market because not everyone's into board games, but at least within the board gaming space, making it as accessible as possible. Yeah. Because if you're only focused on a small proportion of a small proportion, you're in trouble. So,
I also like the variety of themes. Like now it's not just like, so much of it before used to be just like either fantasy or some kind of history theme or space or trains. And now there's a lot more variety.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot of...
Wingspan certainly led the way with
Yeah, it
that.
sort of opened up this, nature. There's a lot of nature games, themed games,
but I think
which is great.
Wingspan proved that a topic that was not space or fantasy could be exceptionally popular and bring new people into the hobby.
Yes.
So I think that's why we're seeing such a wave of these animal, cute, change in theme. And of course, if you watch the channel, you know that we're all about that because we really
are
not huge space and fantasy.
No, we struggle with the space and the fantasy. We'll do a little bit of training.
Really, you know what kind of theme I like is like really obscure, something super hyper focused that you would never think to play a whole game about.
Like what?
Oh, now I knew you were going to say it. Something like Fruticola, which is just about jam.
I really like that theme. Getting your fruits and then turning them into jam. Yeah. I quite like that.
Just like when you take like a really small process and then turn it into a whole game. I kind of like that. Or something that's like just such a little thing that you've never thought of before.
Yeah.
And you get to kind of experience, well, if I was the person that made this thing.
Yeah.
Like that kind of not just farming, but also like being able to become an artisan. I like artisanal, kind of feeling, what is it, hobbies? Vibes, those.
And things that I could never do in real life. Like, for example, calico. I could never, what do you call it? Make a quilt? Or do any sort of sewing.
Does it feel like you're making a quilt?
Not at all, not really.
Okay.
But you've got the little cute buttons, and you are kind of making like it's more the patterns and the patches, but which I probably also couldn't do, like figure out the patterns of things.
Probably not.
Like that doesn't look right. Yeah.
And so that's it with the chit chat. Sorry if we're a bit all over the place this evening, but we should talk about some games.
Oh, yes.
So let's review some games. And the first game is actually Cat in the Box, which we have just been talking about. Cat in the Box was a much anticipated release by Bezier Games. It is a remake of a game that already existed called Cat in the Box, but this has been deluxeified and kind of given new illustrations.
Yeah, very cool illustrations. Yeah. I really like the aesthetic of this.
I really like the art, and I love actually the components of it too. Everything feels really premium. They've done a really nice job of creating like a deluxe edition of what is really just quite a small card game.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the box is, it's not like deluxe for the sake of being deluxe. Everything fits in here really nicely, and everything that has been deluxeified actually really adds to the game. It's not just because we wanted to bloat out the game or anything like that.
The board itself, because you've got the little board where you put the little tokens, the tokens which you're handling a fair bit. Like, very well thought through.
Yeah, so let's talk about how it works. So the main appeal of this game is that it is a trick-taking game where your cards have no suits. And think about what that means. The cards are all black and they do not relate to any suit whatsoever. So they are just black cards that have numbers on them. And what you're going to be doing on your turn is you are going to be assigning these cards to a suit. And you're going to be doing that by placing them along one of the edges of a little player cardboard marker that you have that has 4 colors around the outside. And so you'll place that numbered card on one of the sides and declare that that card now belongs to that suit. Yeah. Once you've done that, you will take one of your player markers and on the beautiful little double layered board that's included, you will mark off that suit and that number, because in this game you can only, in every round, you can only use each card and each number once, just as if it was the only card in the deck. And so what you're going to be doing is, as the rounds go on and we're playing just trick after trick after trick, those numbers are going to fill up. And soon you'll be facing a bit of a dilemma with the cards in your hand that you may not be able to place a card in the suit for the trick. So, for example, Maggie might play a 4 and declare it as a blue, but when I look at the board, I can see that there's no other slots available for blue, or the only slots that are available are for numbers that I don't have in my hand, which means I'm not able to play a winning card. However, red in this game is a trump suit, so that always opens up your options a little more. But for the most part, what you're trying to do is you're trying to be able to play out all of the cards in your hand, because if you experience not being able to place a card of a suit or of any card in your hand,
you get stuck. Yeah.
I should say, you don't have to follow suit in this game.
No.
So it is the case that, you can keep playing cards of different suits, but what's really interesting is when you don't follow suit. So if Maggie plays a blue 4 and I play a yellow 5, I can no longer play blue cards for the rest of that round. And that is another super interesting component. And what I will do is I'll mark that on my player board, showing that I can no longer play blue cards. And therefore that restricts even further the places that I'm able to go on that board. And now coming back to what happens when you have no card that you can play, you cause what's called a paradox in this game. And when you cause the paradox, the round ends, like the game kind of ends at that point, or the round, sorry.
The round, yeah.
If you're the one that caused the paradox, you are going to get -1 victory point for every trick that you've won in that round.
Yeah.
So you do not want to be the person causing the paradox.
Yeah.
And it is possible for a round to be complete and everyone be able to place every card. But with the numbers, there are 4 of every number on the board, but there are 5 cards in the deck of that number, which means that there is quite a high risk that a paradox might occur. So you've got to be really careful in the order and the way you play the cards in your hand. And so it just creates the feeling of this game is both, how do I win this trick? But also, how am I going to play out the rest of my hand, as with all good trick-taking games? Because you're looking at the board and you're thinking, wow, I could really get blocked out of playing this 1. Or, it could be that, like, one of the colors is filling up and I'm not going to be able to win the trick that I really want to win. But the other thing that's really interesting is the bonus scoring in this game, which I haven't even spoken about, because at the start of every round, you are going to bet or kind of gamble on how many tricks you're going to win. So you might say, I think this is a great hand of cards. I've got lots of high numbers, so I'm going to win 4 tricks. If you manage to win 4 tricks, you are going to be able to get some bonus points. And the bonus points that you're going to get are for the adjacencies of your player tokens on that player board. So there's another layer where you're thinking about, I don't want to do the paradox.
I don't want to cause it. Cause the paradox.
I want to win a certain number of tricks. And I want to do that so I can score for the adjacencies on the player board, which means I should probably go there to link up my player pieces instead of playing that number that I want to win the trick. And so there's a lot of layers here. And that's why I think this game is getting, such good reviews from people.
I really enjoy this game. And granted, I love trick-taking games in general, but just that added sort of element of you can see the colors and the numbers that have already been claimed, and then all of a sudden you see that there's in those 4 colors I have a 4 and 3 out of those 4s have been claimed, and then someone goes puts a 4 in the red and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna cause this paradox, oh no. And so you're just hoping and praying that someone else will cause the paradox first. And so like I just really I think it's so clever. It's
really clever. And because there's all those layers, but the rules overhead is very, very
light.
simple. It's not hard to teach at all. It takes, 5 to 10 minutes to teach.
I don't quite, obviously, it's not meant to be a highly thematic experience, but I was trying to figure out why use the cat in the box, the paradox. I think it's Straw. I can't remember the name of the physicist. But because it's all like the cat in the box paradox is all about, when you have a cat in the box, it was that like the mental exercise, or almost like a philosophy version of it, where it's like if you put a substance that could, harm the cat or kill the cat, like before you open the box, the cat is both dead and alive, and it's not until you actually open it that it gets realized. So it was all these layers of physics and about like quantum physics. And like I have no idea how that connects to this game. I don't even know what aside from it just having cats. So please, in the comments, if you can,
maybe explain that one to us.
Explain the link.
Cat in the Box, and it does have a subtitle that is quantum trick taking.
Well, because you're triggering the paradox of like, well, no, this is impossible, but it's I don't quite understand how those two link.
Do you know, it wasn't until you started this line of conversation
that you realized
that it had even occurred to me of why it's called quantum trick taking game. I feel like I just see things.
Schrodinger's paradox, I think it is.
I just read these things and I just say, okay, that's
a black
that's
cat
what it is,
and it's in a box.
That's what it is.
It's a cat in the box.
I don't
paradox.
question the theme. Anyway,
I want to understand. I seek to understand, but so if you can explain it, why this theme makes sense based on the mechanics, then I would very greatly appreciate that.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about with this game is the 2-player variant. So you can play it at 2 players. It's actually it's a 3 to 5 player game at its core, but then there's a 2-player variant. And I found the 2-player variant less interesting. Trick-taking games generally are better with a bigger group. But the way that it works is it kind of removes the part where you are trying to guess how many tricks you're going to win. And I missed that dynamic in the 2-player game because it gave me something to aim for in terms of how many tricks I was going to win. I really liked that. And the interaction that has with scoring the bonuses.
Well, now, because then what it does is it simplifies it to if you win 4 tricks or less, then you get to score that bonus, but you're not having to guess how many you're going to win. So I thought. I mean, I agree with you that is a fun little element when you're like, oh no, I'm not gonna make it. I've guessed this many and I'm gonna win an extra one, or I'm not gonna win enough. I do miss that, but it is a small element. So I still quite enjoyed it at the 2-player
I like
count.
it. It's just not a game that I would get out if there were like 2 people. If there was just the 2 of us, like there are other probably better 2-player trick-taking games. I do like the simplicity of how blocking extra spaces on the board works. We reduce the number of cards in the deck, but also there's a bit of a randomization of pulling out other numbers that will be blocked. So that was quite clever. But overall, really love this game. I'm looking forward to playing it even more with a bigger group of people all of the time.
It's something that will just come with us to a lot of cons and game days.
It's really great. And that is Cat in the Box Quantum Trick-Taking Game. The next game is a game I've spoken about a little bit in the Gen Con videos.
Love this game.
Well, spoiler alert, I do love this game. This game is called Kites, Time to Fly, and this is a cooperative real-time experience. And in this game, you have sand timers that represent different colored kites that are up in the air. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep those kites up in the air. We do not want any of those kites to come down. And as a group, what we're going to be doing is playing cards out of our hand that represent one of those colored kites. So for example, a card could have a red kite on it. When I play that card, the red sand timer gets flipped, or rather I have to physically flip the sand timer. And that's what happens as you move around the table. Every person is going to be playing a card, changing a sand timer or 2, and then drawing a card back up. And the objective of this game is to get rid of the entire amount of cards that are in the deck, as well as every card in everybody's hand. However, there are a few twists on that. There is a white timer that can only be turned if you play a single colored card, because there are cards that have 2 colored kites on them, which make you turn 2 sand timers. But the really cool element that I like about this game is you're playing and you're playing and you're playing and you're making sure none of those sand timers run out. And by the way, some of them are faster than others. So some of them have less sand in them than others, which is kind of fun. But the thing that I like is you keep playing until the deck runs out. So you can no longer draw back up to your 5 cards in your hand. And then what happens is from that point onwards, the white timer can no longer be turned. And now you have until that white timer runs out to clear everybody's hand. And I love that moment in the game because
run, just go, 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 go.
Because the early part of the game, there's a lot of communication. You're saying to each other, oh, someone do the red kite, someone do the orange kite.
We need blue, we need blue.
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
yellow one's about to run out.
Yeah.
Like, and you're kind of cooperating in order to get everything done. And you've got lots of people watching. But at that point where the deck runs out, it's just like,
just go,
get rid of your cards, turn what you can,
yeah.
and it just descends into chaos. And often you can win you can lose just because that white timer runs out, which is super frustrating, but also hilarious. And this game is just really fast paced. There's always a lot of laughter.
Big energizer game. Yeah.
Once you have worked out that core mechanic and how to beat the game, how to beat the game.
To, some groups that we've played with, we have never managed to get past that base.
And may never. But there are cards in here that really mix up the game and make it significantly harder. There's 3 types of cards. One card is aeroplane mode. When that card is played, no one is allowed to talk. So there's no for that next round. So there's
just
no
a lot of quiet sweating and intense
just
staring
at the red timer, hoping someone will
for
flip
that round.
The other one is a storm is coming. So it's got a little storm on it. When you pick up this card, you say, a storm is coming, and on your next turn you have to play the card, which is going to flip every sand timer. So people get a bit of a warning that that's going to happen, and then you're turning everything, which is really fun. And then the third one is entangled lines.
It's like cross lines.
That's it. And when you play that card, everyone has to swap a card with the person on their left and the person on their right. And while you can do that swap fairly quickly, what it means is everyone is looking to the left and right, and inevitably what happens is a sand timer runs out.
It takes their eye off the timer.
It takes the eye off the timers. And this game, obviously, is a very simple game. It's really quick and easy to explain, and it is so much fun as a game that, like, I've taken this game to work now, and there's just so much laughter and people really grasp it quickly. It is cooperative, and we don't usually like cooperative games.
But sand timers, that seems to be the maybe that's what we should do. It's like if there's a co-op game, they're like, oh, but it's co-op. It's like, let's just throw in a sand timer. And we're probably going to be fine then. So we'll probably enjoy it.
It takes the focus of having to cooperate with each other.
It's like, there's a time, it's running out. It's like,
but I absolutely adore this game.
I hadn't even noticed how beautiful the artwork is on the cards, because you're always just looking at the icons and you're just in such a panic.
It is beautiful.
And it wasn't until recently that I was like, actually, some of these cards are really stunning as well.
And I like that there's cards that have 2 colors on them. So if it's blue and red, then the kite is blue and red that's on there. It's like just such a nice detail. I really like this. I really, really like this game. I keep talking about this game. But I do love a game that can energize between heavier games or bring people together who maybe are uncomfortable in a new group.
It's a great icebreaker.
Exactly. Maggie likes fun games less. Maggie likes fun less.
My gamer profile was like, I think for Mary, it's like 2% fun. It's like I'll have 2%, like very, very low. I don't like fun games. So this one is like, I enjoy it, one game. Like I'll do one game. The second one, I'm like,
tolerate it.
I don't know.
For one game. And then
and people say like, again. I'm like, you play. You can all play. I'll go over there and I'll read a rule book. I'll start learning the next game.
But if you're looking for just like a fun little filler that still feels like a challenge, then check out Kites. And
the last one.
The last one is a game by Reina Knizia, which is the new one released at Gen Con San Francisco. And we did get to play this a few times at Gen Con, but we've also played it quite a lot since. And this game is basically a card drafting game where you are drafting from a central market of cards. And these cards represent different boroughs or areas in San Francisco that you are trying to build up on your player board. And so I believe there's 5 different colors of card, and you are going to be building them from left to right to try to develop out that area of the city. Now, why it's interesting is because within each of these city areas, you are going to be playing a mini little area majority game, because each of the cards have people represented on them, and you're going to try and have the most amount of people in
on that line,
on that row, or on that part of the town, in order to get the most victory points at the end of the game.
It's one of those games where it's quite low scoring. So it's like you're doing a lot of work throughout, but then at the very end of the game, it's like you only get if you manage to win that row, you might get 2 points. And sometimes if you're playing at a higher player count and you lose, like you had the fewest, you might get negative victory points. So it's not uncommon for people to end up with just like 3 points as your final score and things like that.
And there's a few more complications, as
of course
there are in the puzzle. So one thing is what's quite interesting about the drafting mechanic. So there are 3 different piles of cards that you can draft from, and on your turn, your only options are to take one of those pile of cards or to add another card into one of those piles of cards. But what's interesting is you can every time you take a pile, you're going to be attracting a contract, which is this kind of little cardboard token.
Yeah, little tile. Yeah, cardboard tile.
So if I take one, I'm going to get 1 contract. If I take another one, then I'm going to have 2 contracts. And what's interesting is you can only draft a pile of cards that has more cards than your number of contracts. So as you start to draft more and more cards, it's a bit like putting a stop or a bit of a catch-up mechanic to allow other people to draft cards before you're going to be able to draft them, because you get to a point where you have 2 contracts and now I can only draft from a pile that has 3 cards or more, but everybody keeps taking them at 1 or 2 cards, which means they're not building up, which means I'm just constantly being forced to add to the piles rather than draft them. So that is just a really interesting little twist on the way that cards are drafted. And the way that you clear out your contracts is once everybody has 1 contract, everybody removes 1 contract. So you can still end up with too many contracts on your hands, but you are going to be able to start to remove them. The other element of this game is that throughout the 5 areas of your board, you can also build tram tracks or cable car tracks, if you will. We're from Melbourne, we have trams. But San Francisco, there are cable cars. And these trolley systems are going to be represented on the board by connecting tracks together. And there's also going to be a point scored at the end of the game for the person who has the most trolleys or
majority of the cable cars
on their board. There are other ways to score points as well.
There's the element of a race. So if you're the first to complete one of those lines, then you also get a little point.
That's right, if you finish the row. The other thing is that as you go along, if you get there's these little symbols on the card. As soon as you've got 2 of them in one row,
compass, like an architect's compass.
You get a bonus, like this cool bonus that's going to give you a one-off effect to add something to your city. The other element which we haven't talked about is the really cool feat of cardboard engineering, which is the little buildings,
skyscrapers.
The skyscrapers that you're going to be able to build up onto your board when you've got the right type of card that has a foundation on it for your building, and then enough of those people or workers that are shown on the card surrounding to be able to build this skyscraper. And that adds a really lovely physical element to the game.
Which after all that work, because it's quite tricky to figure out, because you need to have cards usually to the left, top, bottom, and right to get enough workers or enough people around. And then after all that, you're like, yes, I got got it.
I got
and
the
it's
building.
1 point.
One victory point.
It's like, oh, okay.
One victory point each. And the, what was I going to say? The other, I've totally forgotten what I was going to say. No, what I like about the buildings is that the way that they punched as one piece and it folds into itself.
Yeah.
And then you clip on the surrounding trees, which hold it together. Just, I really enjoyed punching.
That's very clever. That
really
was a very clever piece of cardboard engineering. I completely agree with that assessment.
Now, in terms of the game itself, from my perspective, little bit low tension for myself. So it is a game that as you're playing it, it feels fairly relaxed. It's fairly like you're drafting some cards or you're placing a card. Like there's not much in the decision space in terms of what you're doing. You can only draft what's available to you, and then you kind of have to work with the cards that you're given, so to speak. And there's a little bit of strategy in where you place things on your board, and it's I think I've won every game that I've played of this, and yet I don't get the sense of feeling super satisfied at the end of it.
You're right. It's very relaxed, so it's not a high tension kind of game, which some people really enjoy because it means that it's like, people that don't really like very stressful type game situations, you just kind of, you're kind of sussing out which of these columns to take, and I'll take this one. And then you put them on your board, and then you've got your little so it's more of a very relaxed, it almost felt vibe-wise, not mechanics-wise, but kind of the sense that I got was kind of very similar to when I was playing Santa Monica.
Yeah, Santa Monica.
And it's sort of it's that level of tension and puzzle. It's like there's a puzzle there, but it's not like, oh, what am I gonna do? And like this is excruciating. So, but you do have those. I feel like it kind of grows on you. It definitely grew on me in terms of going, okay, well, maybe this game I'm going to try and not focus so much on trying to get those skyscrapers because they were a lot of effort and you waste a lot of time and they only give you 1 point. So maybe I'll try and just get those majorities or try and race to the end and try and get those, bonus 1 points. So I enjoyed it, but it was a lighter affair.
Yeah, and then you say race to the end, but it doesn't feel racy. It feels like a slow plod towards the end.
It feels like a stroll to the end.
It feels like a stroll. And the game is surprisingly long, I would say, for the level of puzzle depth. Like it does go on a little bit for my taste. The elements that I do like, I do enjoy the bonuses that you can get along the way and thinking about how that impacts on what you're building on your city. I also really like the fact that even though it's a low scoring game, there are 0.5 points that you can get. You can get half points.
Yeah, 1.5 points or 2.5 points.
And often that makes the difference
it has,
between winning and losing. It's just like, you beat me by half a point. So I really like that element. I think it's pretty fun. But I think also because it's such a low scoring game, I don't feel like I don't get as much satisfaction out of like what I've achieved because it is such a few amount of points. So I don't know. It's
like squeezing a lot of oranges and getting 3 drops of juice.
But I do think it is like quite a pretty game. I really like the theme. I love that it's set in San Francisco. And if you are looking for more of that relaxed style game, it probably won't stay in our collection.
I'm just going to interject. I finally put the little sticker. So we found one of the tables at Gen Con had these like promo stickers to put on the little cable cars, and I managed to finally do it. So I'm very proud of myself.
And I haven't looked at them because if I do, I'll never be able to unsee what Maggie did without tweezers.
I think I did a pretty good job. Yeah. I did have one piece. You know how sometimes the wooden pieces have a bit of a pieces kind of missing. So I do have one where the stickers kind of come and join in the middle of
this is why I will never look at them. Anyway, I don't think this game will stay in our collection. We have plenty of milder style, easy breezy games, and this one doesn't offer enough uniqueness in my mind to keep it. I'm glad we checked it out though, because I really enjoyed that unique drafting mechanic. So if this sounds like something that interests you, check it out. out, that is San Francisco. And Boston's starting to get agitated.
Finally, you're done with those.
And that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning into Small Talk. As always, as mentioned, we are trying to do a lot of game reviews at the moment, so stay tuned for those. A lot of games from Gen Con that we're trying to get reviewed. And also we are working on a new series, so hopefully you'll see that pop up soon. But I like your reactions. It's like live reactions. But otherwise, we'll be back with more board game content soon. Bye for now.
Bye.